If you're building directory sites like me, I'm about to show you 9 different ways that you can monetize your directory site, and this will work in almost any niche or any topic. We're going to talk about display ads, but it's going to be more than that. So let's jump right in. Okay, so I've broken up these 9 different ways that you can monetize your display site in levels of easy, intermediate, and hard or difficult. The reason I've chosen these 3 types of levels is because I think that, for instance, the easy level is something pretty much anyone can do, and then as we're going to progress through these, it's going to take a little more work, maybe more skills, things like that, in order to implement them. So the first one I have is display ads. I think this is probably the most common way that people are monetizing their directory sites right now. Like for instance, if you look at Journey by Mediavine, there are tons of directory sites on there right now being monetized. But you don't have to use Journey by Mediavine. You may not actually meet their traffic requirements. Most people are starting out with AdSense, then they're moving on to Journey by Mediavine, then Raptive Rise, which is like the lower traffic level of Raptive. Then you've got Mediavine proper at 50,000 sessions. Raptive proper is at 100,000 page views a month. And of course, there are other display ad providers like, Monumetric, She Media, and things like that. So I've only just listed the most popular that I've seen on the directory sites that I have found in my research. But do know that you can use any display ad provider that you want. The second way that I see a lot of people are monetizing their display ad sites, and this is also on easy level, is affiliate links. Again, this is going to work on most, if not all, types of directories. This can be something as simple as Amazon. It can be industry-specific options that you're getting through places like ShareASell, Commission Junction, Impact, places like that. You can also go direct to a lot of companies and just do the program directly through them. It's really going to depend on, what niche or industry your directory site is actually in, as to, where are you going to find these affiliate programs. Amazon may not work for you. Maybe you're doing something, maybe you're doing something like a directory site of dog trainers, right? And so you want to do some affiliate stuff related to dogs. So you could double up here, maybe even do more than 2 different options. You could use Amazon. You could do CBD programs through ShareASell or Commission Junction. Like pet CBD, things like that. Anything that you think you can tie into whatever your directory site is about. And again, this is something that's super easy. That anyone can implement. For their directory site. That's why we see it so often. So the third most common type of monetization that I'm seeing across sites are sponsored listings or featured listings. People are calling them different things, but in the end, it's really the same thing, basically, where you have all your listings are free, but you have a premium option, so to speak, so that people can pay you to maybe get featured on your homepage, or maybe get featured at the top of like the city page for whatever it is you're doing, or maybe even the state page. It really depends on what type of directory that you're having. While I did include this as an easy level, it does take slightly more work than the other 2 options because you're going to need to find a way to actually take the payment, for those listings. Now that can be something as simple as PayPal, right? Most people are familiar with that, so I don't think you'll have any friction in terms of getting people to pay via PayPal. If you already have a Stripe account or you want to get one, you can do it through that. You could do it through WooCommerce. You have a lot of options here, but from what I've seen, PayPal and Stripe are the ones that most people are using on their directory sites. Okay, so now we're moving into the intermediate level. These are the things that I'm not really seeing as often on the directory sites that I've been looking at, because they do take a little bit more work. You're probably not going to be able to do anything on this level, right from the start. You're going to need some traffic to your site. You're going to need to be ranking for some stuff. Otherwise, not only are you not going to get anyone to pay you for these things like the sponsored content, but it's not really going to be worth your time if the traffic is not there. So sponsored content is exactly what it sounds like. If you have a blog on your directory site, then it'll be like a sponsored post on your blog. If you have some social accounts associated with your directory that have a decent amount of followers, then you can use that to sell the sponsored content. I've not yet seen anyone packaging up a YouTube channel with their directory and selling like a sponsored video, but that is also something that you could do. Now I can't give you any metrics here, in terms of minimum traffic or minimum number of followers, because I think that's really going to vary, by industry in terms of what advertisers are looking for, to get their message out. And that's probably going to depend on what's the lifetime value of a lead for them or a customer for them. So just something for you to keep kind of in the back of your head as you're, creating your directory site and planning your monetization for the future. This is something that, like I said, is intermediate level, but it's also pretty easy to implement. As far as taking payment for this, it's going to be just like with the premium listings, PayPal, Stripe, anything like that people are familiar with and comfortable using their credit card with. Next up in the intermediate level are memberships. So this is going to be, anything where it makes sense for you to have gated content that people would actually pay for. I know that there's a well-known example, I believe Frey Chu shared it on his channel, of the guy who, I think he makes money from surveys or something like that, and he has a paid membership for you to get access to those opportunities. So that's a great example of when a membership would make sense. Let's say you have a membership that's somehow related to sewing or knitting or something like that. I don't know what that directory would be, but you could probably gatekeep some of that content and sell a membership maybe to patterns or something like that. Of course, then you have the problem of creating those patterns, right? But I'm sure there are other examples, of course, that I can't think of right now, where it makes sense to have a membership program where you can have that gated content that people would actually pay you for. I wouldn't just go adding a membership option to any old directory site, right? It really needs to be something where you actually think people would pay for access to that information, ideally on a recurring basis, right? And again, it's going to be the same thing in terms of, how are you taking payment? PayPal and Stripe are going to be your most common options that people are going to be familiar with and comfortable using their credit card with. I'd probably use a membership plugin for that gated content. There's tons of those out there. And of course, when I say that, I'm talking about a WordPress site because that is what I work on. You do not have to use WordPress for this. That's just what I am most familiar with. Next option in the intermediate level is selling a digital download or an info product on your directory site. This is going to be a lot like the membership option, which is what type of directory can we do this on? Any topic where you basically think people will pay for a resource that they can download and keep for themselves. So that's not going to be every directory site, It's going to be ones where it makes sense to maybe download maybe an ebook or maybe some type of special reference sheet for something. What I've seen most commonly in the directory sites that I've checked out has been ebooks, but this could be anything. It could be any type of printable, spreadsheet files. Maybe you're doing some stuff with photographers, so maybe you're selling some Photoshop stuff. Anything like that, that fits for your niche that your directory is in. Now, if it was me, what I would do is I would sell these direct on my site. I would probably use Thrivecart for that simply because I already have, an active license for that. But you don't have to use Thrivecart. You can just use, a PayPal link. If you are using PayPal and you're using WordPress, you're probably going to need to pair it with a download plugin like Easy Digital Downloads so that you can actually get that file automatically delivered to your customers. You can do the same with Stripe, I think. I'm not sure which plugins, the download plugins that works with, though. WooCommerce offers this functionality. Other delivery options, as well as payment options, are something like Gumroad, Etsy, maybe even Amazon. Basically, it's going to be whatever makes sense for what you're selling and the audience that you are selling it to. Okay, moving on to what I call the hard level. These are going to be the monetization options where I think you have the biggest opportunity to make a lot of money, but they're going to take a bit more work, a bit more skill to really implement onto your directory site. So physical products or POD products, which are print-on-demand products. I work a lot with print-on-demand products with my own sites, not just directory sites. I love this because basically you design something once and then it's completely hands-off. It's like possibly the truest passive income. But you don't have to sell a POD product. Could be like a physical product that maybe you are buying in from AliExpress, and then you're, white labeling or reselling it as your own private label item, something like that. And this will work basically on any type of directory where you are targeting people who will pay for a product. So let's say you have a directory of chess clubs or chess club meetups. So it stands to reason to me that people who would be interested in finding chess club meetups would also be an audience that I could sell like novelty t-shirts to, that I'm using the POD stuff for. Maybe novelty tumblers. Maybe I can get some type of custom chess set made and shipped over here to the US, from China or wherever, and sell that direct under my own brand to these people. Those are the kind of things that I'm talking about here, in terms of physical things that you can sell to a directory audience. Like I said, I do think this will work for any niche where people will pay for a product, but at the same time, I think that is probably a very small amount of directories, because it's going to have to be a very passionate audience, I think, for the most part, like I said, with like the chess club, right? So if you're doing a POD product, like I said, I have a lot of experience with that. You can use WooCommerce to do that on a WordPress site. That integrates with like Printful. Or you can just use Shopify. Now you don't have to go, do the full, like $40 a month Shopify plan to do this. You can get like a bare bones Shopify store with like no customization options for $5 a month. So if I wanted to do this and I wanted to use Shopify, basically to sell my POD product, since it also integrates, pretty seamlessly with Printful, that's how I would do it. Now, I've done them both with my sites. I've used Shopify and I've used WooCommerce. So it really just depends on what you prefer using. And if you're selling like an actual physical product, you can do the same thing, WooCommerce or Shopify. Or if you want to go big, you can try doing FBA by Amazon. Okay, next one on the hard level. This is going to be leads. I think the people who are going to be basically most comfortable doing this are going to be people who have an SEO background, doing, these old school rank and rent sites, which have, recently come back into style, where you have a directory, usually it's a service-based directory, right? Where people are coming to find a service and you can refer them basically to other people, right? So I've seen this work two different ways. The first way I've seen this work is you find the company first that you want to sell the leads to, right? But you set it up more like a commission-based kind of thing, where basically every time I refer you, a lead that becomes a customer, you pay me, say, 15%, or whatever you work out for, the value of that job. I think that's probably the slightly easier way to go about this. The other way, is you build the site first. You get it ranking, you get leads coming in, you get people looking for the service, then you go and you find a place that wants to buy those leads. I don't really like this option because it usually involves things like setting up call tracking and things like that, so you can track the actual number of leads going there. So you'll have to really look into this and see if that's something you actually want to do and how you want to go about it. It can be a very lucrative thing though, because depending on the industry that you're in, the leads can sell for, a lot of money. Say you have a site about, roofers or, people who do tree service all over the country or something like that. Those are the types of services where you'd be able to sell those leads. I haven't seen a ton of directory sites doing this. I will show you one once we get through this list of 9 here that is doing this in the legal niche, so you can see how it's done. Okay, services. This is the final thing that I have here. Definitely hard level. Not going to be for everyone. Not going to be for every directory either, right? It's basically going to work for any type of directory where you are, focused on a service, and it's a service that you yourself can offer. I see this a lot with SEOs. They will usually just kind of bolt on a thing that says, like say we're in the dog training niche, right? So you've got a directory of dog trainers, and you have a page on there that says like, hey, are you a dog trainer? We specialize in dog trainer marketing or something like that. We can help you rank higher in Google. Contact us to get help with your dog trainer marketing. So it's going to be something like that. That's what I see most often. Now, it doesn't have to be SEO though, right? Let's say you're a photographer, right? Let's say you do special events photography. and you have a directory of special events photographers, but you also have like a hire me page where maybe you say you can hire me and you have to pay for me to fly out to wherever you are, and I'll photograph your event for you, blah blah blah. So that's the way you could do that. And now that I'm going through this, I actually realize I have 10 ways that you can monetize your site, because I left off something that is slightly related here, which would be courses. Maybe somebody's looking for an events photographer and there's like, oh man, this is just too expensive for me. But you also sell a course on how to do event photography, right? So that's for like the DIY crowd, the people who don't want to spend the money or can't afford to spend the money. Maybe they want to basically just pay somebody to do it, and maybe they are like, oh no, maybe I'll learn to do this myself and take the pictures myself. So yeah, services, super hard. Courses, I would actually put courses in the intermediate level depending on what it is. It can be hard. But with services, make sure it's something that you already do, or it's something that you can learn and then provide as a service yourself. And as for courses, which I don't have a slide for, unfortunately, if it is not a topic that you can do the course for on your own, you can always hire someone to basically do the course for you, but as your brand. So that's the way you could do that for your directory. Like I said, that's all I have. So let's jump right in. I'm going to show you some live examples of how sites are monetizing. So this first site I want to show you, I just randomly came across the other day. I don't even remember how I found it, because I was not looking for rooftop pools or bars, but that is what this directory site does. And they have a collaborate with us page, and this is clearly how they are making money. So we scroll down here, which they have a lot of text on here. So they have the premium membership, which we talked about, basically getting businesses to pay you to be, featured on your site. They're also doing the sponsored content on social media, sponsored Instagram posts. They're doing product reviews. That's going to be your sponsored content. And then they have these long-term partnerships that they're doing that includes kind of everything we just talked about: sponsored posts, articles, social media campaigns, and so much more. Then they show you, all the brands they've worked with us, stuff like that. I wouldn't be surprised if these guys also offer, SEO or online marketing services, even though it's not listed on here. The next thing I want to show you, and this is actually how I basically discover a lot of new directories, it's looking at the Journey by Mediavine JSON file. This is a publicly available information of sites that are on Journey by Mediavine. It's not 100% accurate because they are slow to both add sites to it as well as remove them when they kick them off of the platform. But I've discovered there are a ton of directory sites right now that are monetized by Journey by Mediavine. So usually what I do is I just look up, the common words: Finder, near me, directory, things like that. For a while I was putting in guide as my keyword to look for these, but there's so many affiliate sites that have that it was just kind of wasting my time. So let's see here. Let's look up Finder. And we can see there are 17 results. These may not be all sites because, as you can see, a lot of people put the name of their actual site as their business name. So, we get some duplicates here. So I've already looked at these and I already know that 5-letter word finder is not really the directory site that I'm looking for in terms of monetization. So let's go on through here. Car boot finder. This is a great example. We'll just open this up right here because this site is doing some great stuff with monetization. So as you can see, this is going to be a UK, audience is going to be the target here. It's got a nice clean site. I do have my ad blocker on. Let's see if it's running ads. That was actually just a really stupid thing to say because I just found this on Journey by Mediavine, so of course they're running ads. Let's see, we got a pop-up here that's kind of gone crazy. Here it is, an ebook from Team Car Boot Finder. Now, I'm an American, so I'm not really savvy on car boot sales. I kind of see that it's kind of the equivalent of flea market sales here in the States, but I could be wrong. But when I think about it like that, I think, why would somebody want an ebook on this topic, right? But it says it has, strategies for buying, selling, haggling, tips, etc. to maximize profit. So this actually targets people who are flipping stuff that they find, at car boot sales, which, like I said, I think is the equivalent of flea markets here in the U.S. Only £4.99. So that's how they're monetizing. I don't recall if they are monetizing other ways. I think they had like some featured directory listings. They have a donation page I saw somewhere. Oh, it's right here. Support us. If you hover over this, you can see it goes to Gumroad. So that's how they're getting paid for these donations. And I don't think there's really any other way that this one is currently being monetized. I think if this was my site, I would also just, spin up a quick course that I would also sell, and then I would offer a package deal where if you bought the ebook and the course, it was slightly cheaper than buying them both, separate. Like I said, I thought this was a great example of basically, how can you think outside the box and sell to your target audience? Let's see what else we find here in the Mediavine JSON file. This was a pretty good example I saw earlier, Maine Coon Finder, and I think let's try that again. So again, a pretty clean looking site. It's focused on breeders of this specific type of cat. It's good for both the US and Canada. What I noticed immediately without scrolling down is that we have a store option up here. So just hovering over that, we see they're selling an ebook, they're selling merchandise, and without going any further, I already know that an SEO is running this directory site because what are they doing? They're selling marketing for cat breeders and pet brands. So let's scroll on down and see if there's anything else of interest on here first. Let's see here. So here we have a thing where you can advertise your cats that are available for people, I guess, to purchase. I'm not really into pet breeding, so I don't know the specifics here. So we've got just the list of states. This is actually how I do a lot of my directory sites because it's so simple and easy for people to use. Looks like they also own Genius Vets. We'll open that up in another tab and take a look at that. Let's scroll back up here and we'll look at how they're monetizing again. We'll look at the ebook first. Looks like we're targeting people so they don't get scammed when they're trying to buy a Maine Coon cat. We've got an ebook here being sold via Stripe. I can see by hovering over it. Lots of buy buttons here. They've got still for the ebook. $27. This is the highest price ebook I think I've ever seen on a directory site. I would be interested in knowing if this has sold any copies. I actually suspect I know who owns this site because I know somebody who runs an SEO agency targeting pet stuff. Let's see the merchandise. So they're using a POD brand. They're not using Shopify though, or WooCommerce. They're using Fourth Wall. Again, this is one of those things, it's completely hands-off. You create these designs once, you upload them, you're done. You just wait for the money. It's one of my favorite ways to monetize any type of site. We'll close. Actually, we need to just go back here. Then we have the marketing. Digital marketing services for breeders and pet brands, just like I told you was an option. Their rates start at $500 a month. They also do Facebook and social media. Banner ads on, I assume, this website. It says of our site. So this is not who I thought it was, but I suspect I actually know this person as well. Gary, yep, I know who owns that site. So I'll see if I can find out if they've made any money from that. Let's look at the other site that was linked here, Genius Vets. Scroll on down. This is another clearly directory style site. I'm not sure this is owned by the same guy. This could have been an affiliate link when I clicked on it. I wasn't paying attention. We don't see any real options here in terms of how they are making. Oh, here we go. Veterinary marketing, job board. Let's see if these are paid. may actually be a completely different service from the SEO agency on the previous one. But it does show basically the types of things that you can sell, if you already have SEO experience, or if it's something the experience that you want to learn. Let's see what else we have here. I suspect the job board is also paid. Claim a profile. Let's see if they have paid options. Yes. Make sure your business information is correct. Just $250, right? It doesn't mention if that's annual or one-time fee. I assume it is annual. So yeah, I hope this is basically helping you see like different ways that you can make money from your directory sites. Let's see what else we have in the Mediavine JSON file here for Journey. I've already looked at this one. It was not what I needed to show you guys. I do not think I looked at this site. Bin Stores Finder. Oops, did not mean to do that. Okay, so I'm not seeing anything yet. Add a listing. So we don't have any monetization that I see off the top of my head other than obviously display ads, because this site was from the Mediavine Journey JSON file. Let's see here. We get on add a listing. You must log in to post. So I don't know that they're making money any other way right now other than display ads, because they don't have an Amazon affiliate disclaimer or anything like that. See if there's anything else of interest here. AI phrase finder. I doubt that's going to have what we need. Same. Yeah, I don't think we have anything else. Actually, I'll show you this activity finder. I looked at this earlier. It's a really interesting directory site, but I couldn't really see how they were making money for the most part other than display ads, which again, I do have an ad blocker on, so we're not seeing any of those ads. This is a very nice site. Looks great. It's different, basically, activities that you can do. I think it's just across the US. I clicked on their contact us. Like, I don't see any way that I could say pay this site owner if I wanted an event listed. So I'm not really sure how else this site is monetizing. And I feel like when I looked up directory, I found an interesting site here. Yes. This one is, you can see from the name of the site owner, it's clearly a marketing company and an SEO agency. What I found most interesting about this one is looking at it, I immediately knew that this was, built by one of those AI, coding tools. I think it's Lovable that people are using to make these. They all look exactly the same. I'm sure you've seen them yourself. This site, when I looked it up on Ahrefs, it was showing 0 traffic, but it was showing around 500 monthly traffic on SEMrush. The Ahrefs, like I said, had nothing. So it does have a submit your company option. It says that you can pay to be featured for a monthly fee, but nowhere on this site can I find, well, how much is that fee? Where do I pay? Things like that. I assume this is something that comes by email, because if you want to submit your site, you have to fill out this form. What is interesting to me about this form is it does not ask you if you want to upgrade your listing from free to premium, which is something I would definitely do if this was my site. You go to About This Directory. Again, there's not much information here. If you want to submit your company, you click on it, you're back to the same Contact Us page. So I feel like this is like kind of a good start, but also a lesson in, like, don't half-ass it, right? Like, if you're gonna do this, go all in, get it set up the right way, so that you can make money other than display ads. Like I said, this site is running display ads. It's offering premium listings. It actually has a few premium listings here. I know I saw them somewhere. Featured companies, 4 companies here. So yeah. Like I said, I hope that showing you these live examples gives you an idea of basically ways that you can monetize, like I said, kind of outside the box, beyond just affiliate ads or just display ads. Think bigger. Think of things where you can make a higher percentage of revenue per sale. Why settle for 3% from Amazon when you can make 100% of selling your own ebook directly through your site, things like that. If you have any other questions about monetizing your site, feel free to drop those in the comments for me below. And if you have any other questions related to directory sites, go ahead and drop those in the comments below as well, and I will answer them as soon as I can. Thanks for watching.